Hey everyone, so I want to give a quick disclaimer before this video starts. There's a lot of dark topics within this story. Few of them include incestual lust, public execution, forced isolationism, possible Stockholm Syndrome, and some murderous intentions. So none of these qualities are encouraged by Tolkien, and are actually instead used to portray moral dilemmas within the story. So I just want to point out that viewer discretion is advised for this, as some of this is more young adult level content. So I'd recommend if you're under the age of 14 or older, probably watch this with caution if you're very impressionable, or if you know anyone younger who is very impressionable. I'd recommend they don't watch this video until they're older. Thank you, I just wanted to point that out, and I hope you enjoy the video. Aredhel Ar-Finiel, the White Lady of the Noldor and the sister of King Turgon, grew restless while dwelling within the hidden kingdom of her brother. It was law within the kingdom of Gondolin that anyone who leaves shall not return, and anyone who enters may not leave. After constant pestering, Turgon was eventually convinced by her, and said, "Go then, if you will, though it is against my wisdom, and I forebode that ill will come of it, both to you and to me." So Aredhel departed to visit Fingon, her brother, and Turgon sent riders and lords of Gondolin to travel with her. Aredhel reached the fords of the river Sirion, and she changed her mind. She wished to visit the sons of Feanor instead, and she changed her course. Thingol, the king of the Sindar, would not allow Aredhel or any of the Noldor, apart from Finarfin's kin, to pass through the realm of Doriath, so the dangerous pass of Nan Elmoth would have to be taken instead, where the spiders dwelt. The riders were covered in shadows as they walked through this dreadful valley, and Aredhel was separated from her companions. Aredhel, however, was not killed or lost. She entered the land of Himlad, where Celegorm, the son of Feanor, welcomed her. Celegorm went on a hunting trip, and Aredhel became restless while waiting for Celegorm to return after his departure. Aredhel decided to pass over Kellan, where she became lost in the woods of Nan Elmoth. Nan Elmoth was a tall and dark wood, and the shadows lengthened so greatly within that region that the sun never touched the surface of the ground. There dwelt Aredhel, who was named the Dark Elf. He was a kinsman of Thingol and the Sindar, but he grew restless in Doriath, and he lived within Nan Elmoth apart from his kin. He hated the Noldor and loved the darkness. He only traveled by night and built his halls within the darkest reaches of the wood. He passionately blamed the Noldoran elves for the return of Morgoth and for disturbing the peace of Beleriand. He had great friendship with the dwarves and was their greatest ally among all of the elves, which was an unusual feat for the Teleri. Aredhel often dwelt in Belegost, the city of the dwarves, and he learned much metalwork from the Naugrim, the dwarves. He made a unique alloy out of a meteorite that was as hard as the steel of the dwarves, yet malleable. He named it Galvorn. Aredhel clad himself in Galvorn whenever he traveled abroad. On his return from the Blue Mountains, Aredhel saw Aredhel wandering within Nan Elmoth, and he was filled with a desire for her. He made enchantments about his wood so she could not find her way out, as he watched her secretly. Aredhel came to his domain, where Aredhel had his smithy, his dim halls, and some servants who were all as secretive and cautious as their master. Aredhel revealed himself as Aredhel reached his halls. Aredhel took her in marriage despite his hatred for the Noldor, but forbade Aredhel from speaking the Noldoran tongue. It was not said that Aredhel was wholly unwilling, nor that her life in Nan Elmoth was hateful to her for many years. There was some measure of love between them, although the circumstances were not ideal for Aredhel, and one could also make the argument that she didn't have much of a choice. Aredhel and Aredhel had a son named Lomion in the Noldoran tongue, which means Child of the Twilight, named by Aredhel in secret. But Aredhel gave him the name Maeglin, which means Sharp Glance. Maeglin could read the secrets of hearts more deeply than even his father could. As Maeglin grew, he resembled physically more the Noldor, but in his character he was more like his father. He spoke little, but when he did speak, his voice had a power to move and frighten greatly. He also loved the craftsmanship of the dwarves like his father. Despite this, Maeglin actually loved his mother more. After hearing of Gondolin from his mother, Maeglin and Aredhel desired to journey to the realm of Turgon. Maeglin was deeply intrigued by the fact that Turgon had no heir. When Maeglin spoke of his relationship to the Noldor in the presence of Aredhel, he was met with harsh words. Aredhel said, "You are of the house of Aredhel, Maeglin, my son, and not of the Golothrim. All this land is the land of the Teleri, and I will not deal nor have my son deal with the slayers of our kin. the invaders and usurpers of our homes. In this you shall obey me, or I will set you in bonds." Maeglin and Aredhel were distrustful of each other ever after. This resulted in so much tension that when Aredhel left on a trip to the Blue Mountains, Aredhel and Maeglin journeyed to Gondolin against his will. Aredhel returned soon, and he found that his wife and son were gone. He was so enraged that he followed them even by the light of day, which he would never do under normal circumstances. He went through Himlad, where Curufin, the son of Feanor, and brother of Celegorm, said to him, "What errand have you, dark elf, in my lands? An urgent matter, perhaps, that keeps one so sun-shy, abroad by day?" Aredhel restrained his anger and told Curufin of his wife and son going to Gondolin, and he said he wished to join them in their travels. Curufin laughed at him and knew of his deceitful intent. Curufin let him go and told him that perhaps it was he who was deceived. "You have my leave, but not my love. The sooner you depart from my land, the better it will please me." Aredhel said, "It is good, Lord Curufin, to find a kinsman thus kindly at need. I will remember it when I return." Curufin looked aggressively upon Aredhel and said to him, "Those who steal the daughters of the Noldor and wed them without gift or leave do not gain kinship with their kin." Curufin gave Aredhel this prophetic counsel: "Return now to your dwelling in the darkness of Nan Elmoth, for my heart warns me that if you now pursue those who love you no more, never will you return hither." Aredhel was filled with a greater hatred of the Noldor and ignored the warning of Curufin. Aredhel rode so swiftly that he saw Aredhel from afar, and he discovered the secret path into the mountains. Aredhel and Maeglin entered the outer gate, and they passed through the 7 gates that guarded Gondolin. They ascended the city and came to Turgon's throne upon Amon-Gwareth. The king was greatly interested in everything Aredhel said to him, and he loved Maeglin as his sister's son, and welcomed him as a prince among the Noldor. Turgon said, "I rejoice indeed that our Aredhel has returned to Gondolin, and Maeglin shall have the highest honor in my realm." Maeglin bowed before Turgon, and he was astonished by the beauty of Gondolin. He was amazed by the strength of the city and its people. His eyes, however, were drawn most to Idril, the king's daughter, who was his cousin. A guard then spoke with Turgon concerning the arrival of Aredhel. Aredhel told them to submit Aredhel to the king's judgment. As Aredhel went through the city, he was honestly amazed at what he saw. But as he beheld it, he was still full of anger and hatred against the Noldor. Turgon treated him fairly and said, "Welcome, kinsman, for so I hold you. Here you shall dwell at your pleasure, save only that you must here abide and depart not from my kingdom. For it is my law that none who finds the way hither shall depart." Aredhel spoke harshly to him and said, "I acknowledge not your law. No right have you or any of your kin in this land to seize realms or to set bounds either here or there. This is the land of the Teleri, to which you bring war and all unquiet, dealing ever proudly and unjustly. I care nothing for your secrets, and I came not to spy upon you, but to claim my own, my wife and my son." Then he called out to Maeglin and said to him, "Come, Maeglin, son of Aredhel, your father commands you. Leave the house of his enemies and the slayers of his kin, or be accursed." Maeglin remained silent. Turgon spoke sternly to Aredhel. "I will not debate with you, dark elf. By the swords of the Noldor alone are your sunless woods defended. Your freedom to wander there wild you owe to my kin, and but for them long since you would have labored in thraldom in the pits of Angband. And here I am king, and whether you will it or not, my doom is law. This choice only is given to you, to abide here or to die here, and so also for your son." Aredhel was silent, and Aredhel was afraid. Swiftly, Aredhel threw a spear that he concealed beneath his cloak at Maeglin, shouting, "The second choice I take, and for my son also." Aredhel leapt in the way of the dart and took it. Maeglin remained silent. The next day, Aredhel was brought in for the king's judgment. In the evening, Aredhel sickened and died, for the spear was poisoned. Aredhel received no mercy from the king or the people of the city. He was led forth to the Caragdor, a precipice of black rock along the northern face of Gondolin. Maeglin remained silent. Aredhel cried out, "So you forsake your father and his kin, ill-gotten son. Here shall you fail of all your hopes, and here may you yet die the same death as I." Then Aredhel was cast off of the Caragdur, and his body was crushed at the foot of the hill, and to Gondolin it seemed righteous. Aredhel mistrusted Maeglin ever after. Maeglin did not let that stop him. He grew great among the Gondolin, and he was high in Turgon's esteem. He was the leader of the metalsmiths guild of the city, and often went about into the mountains to mine. When Turgon's host left Gondolin to fight in the Nernaeth Arnoediad, Maeglin did not rule as regent in Turgon's absence, but instead went with him and fought beside Turgon, and he proved a fierce warrior against the servants of Morgoth. However great Maeglin's successes were, his heart had a hidden lust that remained silent to all but Aredhel. He loved the beauty of Aredhel and desired her without hope. The elves did not marry kindred so near. Aredhel did not love Maeglin at all, and knowing of his desire, she loved him even less. She saw this as an evil fruit of the kinslaying, but the shadow of the curse of Mandos fell upon the Noldor. Thus was the great seed of evil sown in Gondolin, and this seed Morgoth would blossom in the future. So, who was the truest Dark Elf? Was it Ael, or was it Maeglin? Or was it both the father and the son, equally, or not to the same degree? Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. I think Maeglin is a very underrated character, and one that I feel very conflicted about, because he has definitely a strong contrast with his character. On the one hand, he does a lot of great deeds, and on the other hand, he has a hidden lust for his cousin that leads him to, eventually betray Gondolin. So I have a question for you guys in the comments. Would you label him as evil or a victim of his circumstances? And do you despise him more, or do you feel sorry for him more? I'd like to hear what you think down below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.